Hey, welcome to step number 2. This is all about underwriting. Now, underwriting in our world is really important. Underwriting is the process by which we determine potentially the eligibility of a prospect. They have to qualify health-wise for our products. And every carrier has a set of criteria that they use to determine whether or not a prospect would be approved. Well, there's a lot of variations, slight variations. They all follow a very similar type of pattern when it comes to health conditions, but some carriers are friendlier than others towards certain conditions, and you'll learn that over time. You don't have to memorize everything right now. In fact, we have some really great tools to help you do this and place people accurately while you're learning all about this new world of medications and health conditions. Sometimes I feel like I could be in med school after learning and going through some of these. But let me share my screen. I'm going to show you some of these tools. And you'll see the links, of course, to download the underwriting guides and the insurance toolkit. The insurance toolkit is the first one. Now, this is an online tool that Equus pays for, but we get for free right here. If you go to your dashboard and you scroll down, you're going to see insurance toolkit. Use your EF number and the email that you used when you joined Equus to enroll. And once you enroll, you're going to have something about like this, okay? It's going to come in and you're going to see all these little nice little buttons up here. Well, this one right here, FEX stands for final expense and term. Those are the two worlds. Now, if you remember from step 1, final expense is usually used for seniors. It's easier to qualify for. Somebody that's not very healthy is not going to be a good candidate for term, more likely final expense. And if they don't qualify for final expense, the next one up is called guaranteed issue. So guaranteed issue is the last resort because it doesn't pay, it's very expensive and it has a lot of restrictions on it, but it is some coverage that people can get. So we'll look at that later, but let's look at these two for now, because 95 or 99% of your business is going to be either term or final expense. So let's take, for example, term, because that's very common. So if you go to term and you click on health cheat sheet, now this is the fun part. When you're filling out an application, okay, you're going to see something, you're going to be using this. Now, you haven't seen this yet, but in the steps to come, you're going to see this. Right down here towards the bottom, this is the medical section that we're going to do when we talk through underwriting. We fill this out. Are they a tobacco user? Health conditions and medications. And these are the questions down at the bottom that you're going to be asking them to draw this information out, okay? So let's go back here, and let's say we're talking to a prospect. And the prospect says they're on metoprolol, because we asked them, what medications are you on? I'm taking metoprolol. I don't even say it right. So metoprolol is typically used for blood pressure. But if you're like me, you go to the Googles, right? And you type in metoprolol, and you'll see that metoprolol is a beta blocker that treats high blood pressure. So I would then ask, oh, okay, have you been diagnosed with high blood pressure? The next logical follow-up question is when. We always want to know when. But it also says, you'll see on here, chest pain and heart failure. So this is a medication that's used for multiple things, okay? More commonly, people use metoprolol for blood pressure. However, it's good to know. So we want to ask the other questions. Have you ever had chest pain or angina? Have you ever had heart failure? Google can really help you know what to ask by telling you what that medication is typically used for. But you can also come in here and you can type in, if you go to the drug lookup, you have to put in their birthday. Okay. And I'm going to put metoprolol on here, and boom, there it is. And look, it asks the same questions. Have you been diagnosed with which of these, or what are you using it for? Typically, it's going to be high blood pressure. So if they put controlled, which is usually the case, if they're current, I usually just put okay on all this. And then you're going to look up and see which carriers are okay with that particular medication. Okay. So this tells me yes or no that they're okay, because there are some knockout medications that carriers sometimes don't like. So that's clear, but that doesn't tell me everything yet, because if I go over here to the health cheat sheet and I type in their health, which is high blood pressure, the reason for the medication, let's say it's controlled. I'm going to find out in the world of term, okay, there are options. And these are the options. Remember from the carrier cheat sheet that you saw, which carrier products they are. And here they are coming to life, right? So Americo, CFG, look, Foresters. Okay, these are all very similar. You're seeing similar guidelines for this. 3 or more medications is considered okay. No, I'm sorry, two or less is considered okay. 3 or more is considered a decline. So I wouldn't want to go with term if they're taking more than 2 medications. Okay, so that's what that tells me. So I would probably need to switch over to final expense. And if I go to the health cheat sheet and I type in high blood pressure, you're going to see a different set of criteria. And you're also going to see different carriers. Okay, ROP means return of premium. That means the product is graded. It means it's a little risky, but they'll take it. Comes with some restrictions. Immediate is best. That means best rates, coverage, approved, preferred, elite, level. Those are all good. So I'm going to gravitate to those because they're going to give me better coverage than one that says return of premium. Okay, I wouldn't want that. So this tells you in a nutshell which carriers to work with. Now, do we rely only on the insurance toolkit? No. You can play around more with this, and I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but there's a quoter tool where you can get all the quotes. Okay, you can click on quotes. Just play around when you have time. Here's where you enter the health conditions and the medications. This is a lot to fill out, and I don't want to bore you on the video, but you can get quotes here from the carriers, and you can compare the quotes. And there's those two I use most commonly, and then, of course, the settings. So this is a really, really great tool, but it's not the end-all be-all because there are so many nuances in a person's health. And it's good to make sure you've checked everything. So I do 3 layers of underwriting. I check this. I also check, and again, you're taking notes right here. This is where you take notes. I also check the underwriting guides that Equus provides. You can click and download. So I'm going to look up here, high blood pressure. It's all alphabetical order. And I'm going to find out that probably the same type of thing. Nope, it's probably under blood pressure. Sometimes you have to get a little creative on this. If it's not here, then they're okay with it. Okay, angina you've got. If it was angina, you've got stent implants. You've got all kinds of different things. So let's see if we can find blood pressure. Nope, it's not even on here. I'll bet if I go to the term and find blood pressure, there it is. Let me zoom in a little bit. Hypertension. So you can see the carriers up here at the top. This one is CFG, Foresters, Mutual of Omaha. If we scroll down, accept, controlled. Okay, there's some more details that you might not see in the toolkit. Now you notice blood pressure wasn't an issue in the final expense world. Looser guidelines, more generous, easier to qualify for. So it's not even showing up. It's not a problem. But here in term, it matters a lot more. So you would want to see, what their specific case is and whether or not it qualifies. Okay. So we use this underwriting toolkit, but we also use the underwriting guides to double check our work. The third layer of underwriting is me or your manager. You want to take a picture of the underwriting guide when you have it filled out. Okay. And you want to text it to your manager during your appointment. You want a backup set of eyes on your underwriting, because if not, you're going to be guessing, for the most part, at first, around those nuances that the guides don't tell us. Sometimes there's multiple situations where there's multiple health conditions that all play in together. For example, somebody with diabetes is fine. Somebody that's a little overweight is fine. Somebody that has high blood pressure is fine. Somebody that has all of those together, probably going to be a knockout. Okay, I wouldn't recommend term. We would look at final expense. So if you look at them individually, you're leaving out the comorbidities. And there's so many different types of things, the mix and match, that you can't know all of them. And the underwriting guides will get you most of the way there, but not all the way. So make sure you're talking to your manager during every appointment at first until you develop a good, consistent habit of placement. Okay. So these underwriting guides are there, not to be memorized, just have them available. I like to print them out and have it next to me on my desk. I can flip open a lot faster than I can search. And the other thing that's important is the build chart. So you want to download this as well. You've got one build chart for term and universal life, and then you've got another build chart for, guess what? Final expense, right? More generous. You can be a little heavier to qualify for final expense. But these are hard and fast, and you need to know this. If you are 1 pound over the build chart, the carrier will decline. They have zero wiggle room on these numbers, so they have to be within these guidelines. Now, we do have other carriers that, like we have 2 carriers that don't have a build chart. Okay, so if somebody is very heavy, we can still get coverage, but that's where you need to be talking to your manager, because there's so many exceptions to these rules. I can't possibly go over all of them with you in a brief underwriting training. So that's the nuts and bolts of underwriting. You need to get good at it. You need to speak to people in a way that makes them feel comfortable, okay, and ask them questions. You want to dig deep. Now, it's very important. Here's what I say when I start. Before I start asking medical questions, I'll say, now these policies, Mr. and Mrs. Prospect, are non-medical policies. They don't send anybody out for blood work, but they do a little bit of background check to make sure you're eligible health-wise. So I need to ask you some questions. I need to get a little bit nosy, and I need you to be as honest as you can with me. What medications are you on? What health conditions have you had? And I ask all those questions that I showed you on this underwriting form at the bottom there. Okay, I'm going to ask all those questions. Now, here's something that's very important. Everybody thinks they're healthier than they actually are. Just count on it. I ask 2 or 3 levels deep. So are you guys healthy? Yeah. Any problems? Nope. Okay, let's go on and get some quotes, right? No, we don't do it that way. Are you guys healthy? Yeah. Okay, awesome. Good. What medications are you on? See what I did? Oh, yeah, I'm healthy. Okay, let me list all the medications I'm on. Yep. And then they give you like 5 or 6. So everybody will volunteer to a certain degree, and then they want to hold back because they know the more they're saying, the more they're getting rated, and their policy is going to be more and more expensive. However, it's to their benefit, to be honest, because number one, the carrier is going to find out. And if they find out that someone's been untruthful on an application and they're skeptical, they're less likely to approve. These are people. They have jobs and they're paid to do their job. And so we want to volunteer everything, and we can explain it, not hold back or keep it out of the application because we think it's going to hurt their chances of getting approved. So when we go into underwriting, we have a heart-to-heart conversation. Be very matter of fact. Don't be timid or shy. This is what we do. Just like when you go to the doctor, they're going to ask you some medical questions. Well, they're not like all giddy and weird about it. They just ask you, how heavy are you, right? We have to ask people's height and weight. Don't fumble over it. Be confident. You're an underwriter, so you need to know these things. And if you're confident in the way that you approach it, they will follow your confidence, and it won't be weird. But underwriting is a very critical part of the process because it helps us know where they would be eligible. And then after underwriting, and only after underwriting, can I know if they could potentially qualify for living benefits or even a term policy, or what if it's going to be a whole life policy. And after that is when I can run pricing. Before that, I have no idea what they would be qualified for or what they would be eligible for. So I don't want to guess. I'm a professional. We need to do an intake. I need to understand their situation, and that's what underwriting is all about. The more you do, the better you'll get. Be okay with the first several appointments just being a flop. It's going to feel awkward. You're going to fumble over yourself. It's okay. The sooner you do a bunch of those, 10 or 20 appointments, the sooner you're going to get the hang of it and feel more and more confident in using these tools to increase the accuracy of your placement rate. So I hope that helps. That's Underwriting 101 for you. There's a lot to learn. I've done several podcasts on underwriting, and there's a lot more tools and a lot more out there. But stay close to your manager, use these tools, and you can become an excellent underwriter in no time. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you over on Step 3.